work, the first thing I had to do was identify my parallel slope. It's a +3. I didn't have to touch the equation at all, which is great. That may not be the case in your homework, so just be ready. So I pulled out my 3. I labeled my points as my x and y because that's what we use them for, to give you those values. Solve for b. My b was +12, and my final answer, the parallel equation, is y equals 3x plus 12. Now remember, on your homework, you may have to go an extra step. I may ask you to take this equation that you solve for and the equation that's given, and I may ask you to graph them. That's the only way that you're going to be 100% sure that the two equations are parallel, okay? So just be prepared to do just a little more work on your homework. Now, I'm going to move on to perpendicular lines. I'm going to move the camera over just a little bit so you can see. There we go. Parallel lines, you know they never intersect, which is why the slopes are exactly the same. Perpendicular lines are a little different, and I think I'm going to move a tad bit closer. There we go. You can see. All right. So let's start with the definition of perpendicular lines. The symbol, the geometric symbol for perpendicular is like an upside down T. So it kind of looks like this. So you'll see this symbol when we're doing these problems to indicate this is the equation of a perpendicular line. Now, perpendicular is a special way that lines intersect, okay? We know that parallel lines are the only lines that don't intersect. Perpendicular lines are two lines that intersect at a special point. Now that point of intersection, that's when we get into geometry. It's called a perpendicular bisector, but it's two lines that intersect, and at that point, they form a right angle. They intersect to form a right angle. And we all know that a right angle measures 90 degrees, so it's exactly like, you know, an L. Right? There's no sway or diagonal to it. So it's straight up. It's basically a vertical line that intersects a horizontal line. So it has a special look to it. It's not just intersecting, it's intersecting to create a 90-degree angle. So when we talk about intersecting, there's a relationship between the slopes of perpendicular lines. This is the next sentence. The slopes of perpendicular, that should be of perpendicular lines. The slopes of perpendicular lines are called opposite reciprocals, okay? Big words, all math. This is what you put in your blank. Let's talk about what it means, because if you don't know what it means, then you're not going to be able to do it in the problem. The term opposite means you're talking about the opposite signs. So when we talk about opposite, we're switching signs, okay? Switch the sign. If it's a positive, you switch it to a negative. If it's a negative, you switch it to a positive. So the word opposite refers to switching the sign. Reciprocal, you've heard this word for years when we're talking about fractions. Reciprocal is just when you flip that number upside down. So reciprocal means you flip the number. So when you put these two words together, that identifies the type of relationship between the slopes of perpendicular lines. You'll take the slope, take the opposite reciprocal, and that gives you the slope of the perpendicular line. So in our next video, I'm going to take you through how to find the opposite reciprocal, and then